All right, this month I've already talked about the benefits of work from home, some of the risks or challenges from work from home. Last week I talked about how we can maybe improve the work from home based on using some tools and some techniques that you may not have heard of. And this week I want to cover how work happens today. We're seeing a lot in the news about how people want to return 100% to the office, or they want to be work from home or work remote forever. Is it the best option? Or is there a third option that might actually be the way that most businesses should be run? So let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Chris Burns from Techie Gurus, and welcome back. So this entire month has been about work from home or remote work, how it can benefit your business, how it can be a risk or a challenge to your business. And then last week I covered tips on improving that because there are some business decisions that have to be made between work from home policies, bring your own device policies, things like that. This week is all about talking about the three main ways that we work. First one is going to be a full return to work in the office. The second will be 100% remote, kind of like Airbnb is doing it. And the third option is something that people don't talk enough about, is this hybrid. The ability to work from home sometimes and be in the office. The best of both worlds, if you will. So let's kind of dive into how we can construct the security and the cybersecurity of our business around each one of these scenarios. Just to get my opinion out of the way, and I'm sure some people have comments about this, bring it on. I don't think 100% return to work is a good idea. I don't think 100% remote is a good idea in some situations. I think hybrid is actually the best solution we have because I think it sets the business up the best. If we set our businesses up in a way, if we construct our businesses in a way that we can be hybrid, it means that if we get another pandemic or some level of disaster happens, we have a way to recover, move, and be agile in our businesses that you don't necessarily have when you're 100% returned to the office. Now, if you're 100% remote, obviously you still have that agility and things like that. But I do think things are missed being remote. The water cooler talk, just the spontaneity of conversation that happens between colleagues. There's something magical, there's something special there that's kind of needed. But it doesn't have to happen every day because there's also dark sides to that. Water cooler talk. That burns a lot of time. When you're 100% remote, you don't necessarily have that. Yeah, you might chat a little bit. You might have some conversations a little bit on video, but you don't waste that much time doing it. But I think that's important sometimes in a day when you're dealing with some stress, that you have a mental break where you can talk about the game last night. You can talk about some personal things. That's healthy. But okay, that's my opinion. So hybrid work is my opinion. But I want to cover each one because, again, your business, your decision, not mine. All right, what I want to do is I want to describe each one of these scenarios and kind of give you the picture of what we see. So number one, somebody that is 100% full return to work, we're traditionally going to see one server, one firewall protecting one internet connection, and maybe they have a single network switch that all of the computers go into. Now, they could be coming from wireless, but they're still going through this one network switch. We usually see 1 to 5 business applications. Could be QuickBooks, could be an ERP system, whatever. Maybe they have 2 servers. It doesn't really matter at this point. And they have a backup. What they're not prepared for is availability. So what I mean by that is, what happens if one of those pieces dies, chooses not to work today, right? If you have a backup of your server, maybe you can spin up a virtual machine, you can get back up and running. What happens if your firewall dies? If you don't have another one? So what you're going to do is you're going to scramble, you're going to call your IT provider, and you're going to yell at them and be like, why is this down? And then you'll be like, well, your firewall died. We're going to file a warranty request with the vendor, and you'll probably have one tomorrow, but it could be another day before you get one. But we might have a one to loan to you that we'll bring out there and do that. So you've been down for a few hours. That's scenario one. We actually run across that a lot. A lot of people won't pay for 2 firewalls for whatever reason. I find it crazy, but that's the way it is. Now, if a switch dies, normally wouldn't be a problem, but supply chain has been a big problem with trying to find network switches. You may not get one right away. It could be weeks. So if you don't have a spare, I highly suggest you buy a spare or talk to your IT provider and say, hey, do you have spare switches? So just in case this dies. But what it really does is it really limits your business. Because we saw this during the pandemic. We had people that only worked in an office, and when they had to send people home, it was a challenge. They came to us and we had tools that we could enable this, but we had one customer send desktop computers and monitors home with their employee. Now, I don't want to explain to you the risks of that beyond just saying, hey, there was data on there that should not have left the building. So we have to think about this. If we're returning to work 100% of the time, we have to really kind of dive into, okay, we still need to change the way the business works a little bit to kind of go around what could happen. And this kind of floats a little bit into full remote work. So what I want to talk about there is, look, it's great that if you can work fully remote, 100% remote, because that means you're probably in the cloud. That probably means you're using software as a service applications. Maybe you do need virtual desktops to run a line of business application. Maybe it's a traditional line of business application that you want to run in a cloud. It's great. It's awesome. That means you can be remote or you can go back to hybrid later and not have a problem. You could actually use that same model for 100% return to work. Have two internet providers and leverage that model. Now, the things you're going to lose are just like the communication. It's a little bit harder to communicate because you have to schedule video meetings, and a lot of people get Zoom fatigue or Teams fatigue, whatever I'll call it. It is a challenge, but you're probably better off from a standpoint of being able to be resilient just in case something happens because you're not in one spot. And this brings me to hybrid. So hybrid is what I love. Hybrid, I think, gives us the most flexibility from a standpoint of we get to see our coworkers, we get to have that interaction with our coworkers, we get to have spontaneous conversations that can spur maybe some innovation in our business. But we also have the flexibility that people can still work from home and construct their lives around that and not have to sit in traffic all the time, not have to do certain things like that. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's what we've been for well over 2 years now. I mean, ever since I've owned the business, it's always been you could work from home if you needed to, but we've had one day where we had a full team in here, and that was because somebody was leaving. So that's how we've constructed it. Hybrid seems to work the best. That means we're usually in the cloud. Now, hybrid could also mean that you do have a server on site. I am to the point in my consulting with business owners to say don't have servers. If you're going to have servers, have them in the cloud. They're more resilient. They're more available. It allows your business to move office. Like if you need to move to a new building, it makes it a lot easier because all we have to do is provide networking and internet. It's just a much easier and sometimes more cost-effective solution. Now, sometimes it's going to cost you more, but what do you gain from that? And that's where we start looking at the benefits of availability. Availability is just going to be so much better than if you put it on site. Because there's going to be multiple internet providers. There's going to have multiple power. There's going to have multiple servers that can run your systems. It's just better. So I hope this was helpful from a standpoint of just kind of going over each one. I know I shared my opinion about which one's my favorite, and it really is. But what I want to do is say, take the stuff that we've built up to, the risks, the challenges, the benefits, and then some of the tools that we used last week, and we can apply that to each one of these scenarios. But the idea here is we want to make your business more resilient. In cybersecurity, there's something called CIA triad. It's confidentiality, integrity, availability. To me, this is all about availability. Now, yes, there's some confidentiality and some integrity parts to this. But when we're choosing between work from an office or work from home or hybrid or whatever, it's about availability. Our systems need to be available. And we need to think about that because there could be another pandemic. There could be some sort of disaster that takes you where, like if you return to work 100% of the time, maybe you have to switch offices. You have to procure equipment. Right now with supply chain, that's very difficult. So I hope, if anything, this kind of just makes you think about your business, makes you think, hey, maybe this isn't the right way to do things. Maybe this is the slight changes and tweaks that we need to make to really prepare our business for anything that can face. because I know it's hard enough finding employees right now. I know it's hard enough dealing with supply chain. We're dealing with inflation. I get it. But we don't want to make it worse. And I think that's the thing that is really the thing that bothers me the most is when we were unprepared for what happened in 2020, a lot of companies are trying to go back to something where they're still not prepared for what could happen again. And I just want to make sure that everybody's prepared. So on that note, until next time, stay cyber safe.